Hi everyone, it's Montezuma. We will be starting shortly. Please enjoy the music. We're just allowing fellow participants to join in on the call. Let's dance a bit. It is still our Heritage Month, but we are need to dance and enjoy the music. Lorato is with us, so please do enjoy yourselves. We will start at exactly 11:05. Welcome everybody. I am Montezuma, the Startup Grind Pretoria Chapter Director. I would love to welcome each and every one of you in this event where we're hosting Lorato Tshenkeng, a person that I've grown fond of in the last year or so. So today's session is a public relations masterclass titled The Importance of PR for SMMEs and Entrepreneurs with, like I said, Lorato Tshenkeng, who likes to go onto social media and say hashtag Modimo ke Lerato or Olorato. So it is me, Montezuma. Startup Grind is, a global community. As a community, we've been in existence in Pretoria since 2017, and we are who we are because of our sponsors as well as our partners. Not forgetting, all people who attend our events. That we've been hosting a minimum of one event a month, but because of COVID-19, we had to move from the physical events to the online ones, where we've been striving to do 2 events in a month. So as Startup Grind Pretoria, we are the largest, most progressive, innovative monthly gathering of entrepreneurs within the city of Tshwane. Our monthly events highlight the success and failure of startups in Pretoria, but we have also shifted now, because of being virtual, to go beyond entrepreneurs who are from Pretoria. As Startup Grind Pretoria, we are delighted to host events presented by AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, which provides on-demand cloud computing platforms and APIs to individuals, companies, and governments on a pay-as-you-go basis. Through the AWS Activate program, AWS provides startups with a low-cost, easy-to-use infrastructure that is needed to scale and grow, one's company. Please do visit, the AWS website that we're going to be sharing, where you can, take credits that they are offering to startups, to make use of their platform. And, being, part of a global community, Startup Grind, is, globally the largest independent startup community, actively educating, inspiring, and connecting more than 2 million entrepreneurs in over 600 cities. And these cities are, all over the world, in over 130 countries, in which, we host events, and we have various partnerships like we have now with AWS, amongst many others. We've had running partnerships with Google for Startups. In South Africa, we've been with PayFast, who has been our sponsor. And you know what? We want you today to hold us to what we believe in ensuring that at the end of this session, you've been educated, you are inspired, and you have connected with fellow entrepreneurs. And the connecting part, as much as we are online, we will still allow you to connect. So when we are done with the actual presentation, at the end, we will give each entrepreneur, just about 3 minutes to introduce themselves, share a bit about their company, and even share links to their website, because we believe we need customers, we need investors, we need partners, and these people are the people that are with us in this, webinar. So with that, I need to ensure that everyone is comfortable. Whenever we are allowing questions, we would love to say, we would allow people to ask questions via text. So please, at the bottom of the screen, use the Q&A or the chat function to ask whatever questions, and then Mr. Lorato will be answering those. And we've noticed that there are, bad elements that would creep in and say things that we would not be in support of. And a Startup Grind, whatever that are shared, those views, anyone who will be speaking, against what we believe in, we will unfortunately be forced to cut them off. And we apologize should we have such elements, but we do believe that, we will be having a great session with a lot of learning. So just to kick off, I just want to play our quick promo videos and then get Sir Lorato, to be ready. And then as soon as we're done with the short videos, we will be jumping right into today's session with Sir Lorato. And technology. Apologies about that. Hi, Lorato, is the video playing on your side?
No, it's not.
I do apologize with that. Herman, are you able to share the video from your end?
Give me 2 minutes. I'll do that.
Sorry about that. As Startup Grind Pretoria, we do also have those minor glitches. We apologize, but like we've said, we're presenting today's session, with the support of AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, and we also have our partner, which is PayFast, which is a payment gateway, and you will see from the promo video a bit about PayFast. We have various partners, including one of my, closest businesses, Mamelodi Biz, which is an online community or platform from entrepreneurs in various townships and, rural areas, where we focus on 3 things: in ensuring that township and rural businesses have online presence, they are business compliant and that much needed access to market. So yes, we do the logistics and the marketing of this event using the team from Mamelodi Bez. We have Safe Fruit, which is a premium juice brand that has been with us, making sure that when we have face-to-face events, we have those nice bespoke juices. We have our media partners again being Venture Ben, which is, you know, an online publication who have been spreading the word about various startups, not only, you know, in South Africa, but also internationally with the focus of Africa. You know, they do a lot of work covering, you know, entrepreneurs within the tech space. So please do check out Venture Ben to see the latest, you know, news on what's happening, not only in technology again, but I know they've been running a lot of series to say the innovative things that people are doing that we can use against various things, including the corona, you know, COVID-19 pandemic. So please do check out Venture Ben. We also have Vibe Scott, which is also, you know, an online community where they share various events that are happening in South Africa. We also have, you know, with us, you know, Decode, who have partners to ensure that we have this great session that we would be having, that I know that we will be learning a lot from our guests today. Herman, are you ready on your end? Let me just quickly try again while Herman is getting ready to also try it on his end. Lorato, please also tell me if you're able to see the video so that we can get right into today's session. I know people are saying we need to hear what our guest is saying.
There's a reason why for the last 13 years, startups overwhelmingly prefer to build on top of AWS. We have the largest number of services, making it easy for you to take on some of the biggest challenges with the smallest teams. We also have partnerships with the top VCs, accelerators, and incubators around the world, making it easier to secure your next round of funding.
I'm a solution architect with the AWS Head Start program. What we do is we work with startups in the education sector, and we help them build their services on AWS.
So We Power Tech is AWS's diversity and inclusion outreach program. The program is really twofold. One is to increase the number of underrepresented technologists within the industry, and the second is to provide a platform for them to be seen and heard.
If you're wondering how the AWS evangelism team might be able to help your startup, there are many ways. We're technically credible across our entire catalog of products, so we can help you figure out which services might be able to meaningfully impact your business. We also want to help tell your story. So if you're building something cool, we want to know about it and help spread that message to the world. So you might end up on stage at an event like AWS Summit. If you're a startup, you should also definitely check out the AWS Lofts. These are event spaces that are free to anyone with an AWS account. And you can treat them like co-working spaces, but the awesome thing about them is that we also have people like technical evangelists like myself, solutions architects that come and give hands-on technical workshops and sessions to help you learn how to more effectively utilize the AWS products and platforms that you're already building on top of.
We are a dedicated team of people that love startups, that we just want to come and help you with whatever we can, whether it be technical or business focused. We are here to help guide you and make sure that you do have a say in what's going on. We do get your feedback. We do bring that feedback to the service teams. That is what we're here for.
Thanks a lot, everybody. I am back. I am Monde Zuma, like I've mentioned, the Startup Grind Pretoria Chapter Director, and I have with me a good friend of mine, Lorato Tshenkeng, who will be presenting today's masterclass, which is titled The Importance of PR for SMMEs and Entrepreneurs. Lorato is the CEO of Decode Communications. And so, Lorato, welcome to Startup Grind Pretoria. We are looking forward to, to learning and from learning in today's session. I am handing over to you. To everyone, please remember, whatever questions that you might have, use the Q&A functionality or the chat function, and say Lorato will be answering that. Over to you, my sir.
Thank you so much, Monde, for firstly inviting me to this amazing session with entrepreneurs. And like all of them here and yourself, I'm an entrepreneur, you know, navigating a whole lot of challenges and trying to build some legacy for my children in particular. And I wish to, I've decided that I will not introduce myself because the link that was sent to the participants was long and good enough to introduce myself. And then as I talk through, I guess as I'm sharing my experience, the people will get a little bit of who I am and where I have been. And I've decided to title the talk for today, The Power of PR, Why Startups and Entrepreneurs Must Sit Up and Leverage on It, right? And before are you able to see my screen, Monde?
Yes, 100%, sir.
All right. So I'm a husband to a beautiful and a very intelligent lady. Her name is Lorato Tshenkeng, and I'm a father of 3 earthlings, and I've been in PR for the past 16 years, right? And throughout all of it, I've read a number of definitions of what PR is, both from textbooks to a number of PR industry experts. And with my experience, I have deduced it to what I say, PR is not about publicity or making brands to be great at social media. I believe that its only objective should be to have a positive impact on business goals and financials. And I raise this with the view that every time when people want to commit to budget to PR, the biggest question always is, what is the return on investment? And that is why the deduction for myself has been around, if it does not talk to business goals, if it does not talk to business growth, then it means that we may have missed the mark. Of course, if you're talking to other entities such as governments, they have a different objective. For instance, it may be behavior change and all of that. So we look at different metrics. But for the purposes of today, we stick to this definition that really talks to business growth and business goals. A little bit about ourselves as Decode. We've been in existence for the past 8 years. We are headquartered here in Sandton in Wynberg. And a little some of our experience really is around public sector in the main. And because I started my PR journey at South African Airways, and I rose through the ranks, and then I eventually went on to a consultancy and tried my hand in political communications. Then I later decided to start my own PR agency. And in there, we've done work with a number of major brands, such as Brand South Africa in particular, which I continue to do work with them now. And we also did work with Nissan, and we're responsible for taking care of their PR in the sub-Sahara market. And that's where we really grew our African experience in terms of being able to, move around a number of countries where we're able to execute either motor launches, or a number of key activities. And getting on to today's, or at least the talk about today, I believe that entrepreneurs and small business owners in particular, we are a special kind, right? Special kinds because we are determined people, right? Unfortunately, in being determined, it does not mean that we always have the wherewithal to run businesses, or at least we have the kind of setup that a big corporate would have, where some functions such as marketing, such as IT and human resource, they have all those figured out. And what it means is that we then have to in all of that, while you start a business, for instance, with myself, I started a PR agency just with my PR skills. I then had to learn how to be an IT guru of some sort as well in the process. I also had to learn to do a little bit of bookkeeping. Although I have an accountant, I then had to, make a number of mistakes with bad hires, having to fire people and then go to CCMA because I didn't do it the right way. So the challenge has always been that we have to do many things at the same time, right? Add that on another layer onto that challenge that we have of having to be a jack of all trades. Then there are mega trends, right, such as urbanization, with, you know, it has been cited by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs that by 2050, 2.5 billion people will be living in cities, right? What it then means is that, at least from a business perspective, it means that we are seeing opportunity, we are seeing markets, right? If you are in construction, as an example, it means that, you know, there are more bricks to lay. If you are a carpenter, there are more cupboards to put up and all of that. And digitization, you know, we can never leave it behind. In fact, with the pandemic, it has even surpassed some of these numbers that have been projected. And industrialization, right? And of course, the biggest thing with industrialization is that it then creates a number of other new industries. You look at energy in particular, where we're now looking at new energy sources such as solar and all of that. And so those are some of the industries that entrepreneurs are able to go into, right? With all of that, the biggest thing that any entrepreneur is concerned about is, how do I grow my business, right? And business growth can easily be looked at from a point of, there are many moving parts that you have to focus on, particularly from an operations point of view, right? But without customers, no business is going to grow, right? And the one way, or in fact, the biggest way of really talking or attracting those customers is, one, getting more people to speak about your brand, and two, getting a lot more others to recommend your brand to customers, right? And in that, the biggest thing then is always, but what is the problem? If it was that easy, if it was as easy as, if I want to grow my business, I need to speak to more customers, I need to get more people to recommend my business, why is it that difficult to do, right? It is because, think about it, if you are in construction, your biggest your biggest skill would be to be a project manager, as an example, right? So it means that you know little about PR, or you know little about marketing or advertising, right? And then people like myself come to you and say, Morena, we can help you scale. And the biggest thing with the image here, the biggest thing that I'm trying to demonstrate here is that a lot of small business owners, because we don't always have time, we don't always have resources, we then use the kinds of tools at our disposal to try and grow the business. And the question is it effective? Of course, if you look at this image, you know, trying to kill 1,000 soldiers with one sword versus a machine gun that could in seconds wipe out your enemies, which is most effective, right? No guessing there. The other problem is that the media space, remember that the idea is that you want to be able to talk to more customers. For you to talk to more customers, you need enablers, and media is that enabler, whether it's traditional media in the sense of print, or traditional media in the sense of broadcast, which is TV and radio, or even online and digital media in the sense of social media, right? Unless you understand how the media works, you are not likely to get your story there. We've worked with a number of clients who complain and say, yeah, Lorato, but you know, my story is the most compelling. We've tried sending a press release and no one is getting back to us. And the question I ask is, do you think that your press release was compiled in a way that that journalist understood and got you? Or two, did you actually send it to the right journalist? Because maybe you're in construction and here you're writing about a big project that you've just undertaken, and you know the successes have a number of impacts, job creation and many others. But then you send it to a science and technology writer. Do you think that they will care about your press release? Of course not, right? You are again trying to pitch a story about the number of computers that you've donated to the local school, and you then call 702 and you're trying to get your story into Bruce Whitfield's show, which the money show in the evening. They will not be interested in that story. This is if you're to go to an Azania in the afternoon, because it's a feel-good story, and those are the kinds of stories that she does. So understanding the media is also very critical. What is PR? And it's important for me to get to this point to say, we know what the opportunity is. We know that there's an enabler in the sense of the media channels, right? But how do we then leverage them? Before you even start thinking about leveraging, it's then important for us to say, do we understand this thing called public relations before we even start thinking about many other ways of doing it, right? I know that I've given you my definition there, but essentially it's a set of actions to get people to understand so that they can believe or buy. And this is very, very important, right? In the sense that if you think about it, brands in the 21st century, they are no longer just about selling goods and services. They are no longer just about transactions, right? People want to know what you stand for. And that is why sometimes, and I'll use an example such as Batu, right? Batu, although it's a typical sneaker, many people are not just buying Batu for the sake of buying a sneaker. They are also buying what they believe Batu stands for, right? So it's important that as you package yourself as a brand, you then think about there is a need for being transactional. There's a need for making money. However, the need for helping people to understand what I believe is very, very important. The second thing is about earning people's attention and trust, right? So if you think about that slide that I've showed about the mega trends, right? Rapid urbanization, rapid industrialization, and digitalization. It then means that people are too busy. And the most important thing then is going to be, how do I, in the most cost-effective way, use free publicity to earn people's attention and their trust? And then the other issue is really around influencing people's perceptions and shaping them. There, it's about, if you look at the image that I have here, it's about, so you have a brand promise. You are in construction, and you say that ordinarily when you've built a house, it stands solid for years. Not only because you are NHBRC registered, not only because you have a CIDB registration, but couple it with the brand experience. So your customers, when they've moved into the house, they can share with their family members, with their colleagues, and investors and all of that, to say that this guy, when he has built a house, it literally stands solid. So the sweet spot is about brand perception. So it's not only about you telling us what you do, or at least what you promise from a service or business or product point of view. It's also about what your customers have to say about the experience of the brand, right? And then, now that we have a sense of what public relations is, the myth is that public relations is about publicity, or in another way, is about media relations, right? But in actual fact, public relations is a lot of activities, right? Including event planning, including internal communications, which a lot of small business owners do not pay attention to, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Reputation management, exceptionally important, and community relations. Community relations matter a lot to businesses that operate particularly in townships and in mining towns. And I single this out because ordinarily, if you look at the protest, civil protest, and the service delivery protest that often occur, they occur in the townships in the main. And when they do, businesses that survive, they survive as a result of goodwill that they've built with communities, right? That goodwill is not something that just springs up because you have a business there. It is a very intentional thing that you build, or relationship that you build over time. So how do we as part of this growth, how do we understand the, a typical, or at least how a typical customer thinks about making a purchasing decision, right? So we've spoken about the importance of, one, understanding what PR is, but also moving it just away from it being around publicity and media relations. But, thinking about, it's important that we create awareness, because once you've created awareness using the media tools, then people get to know about your service or product. And once they know and understand, they are likely to then consider, and they will then, the consideration then goes to, if I have 3 products in front of me, or if I have 3 builders in front of me, which one do I pick? It is going to be out of understanding, but also out of the kinds of messages that I see and hear about you as a business owner or as a service provider, that will then make me decide to say, I am then going to take action and choose you as a service provider, right? In an attempt to create awareness, the biggest challenge is that the marketplace is noisy, right? Look at this, if you see this image, right? Demonstrating how in 1 minute, there are so many things that are happening, right? So it is then important, and to the earlier point that I made about understanding how the media works, including social media as well, so that when you embark on any PR activity, you then know, 1, where your customers are, 2, the times that you can reach them, but 3, as you create this bank of content, how easy it is for them to access that. So the point with the slide is to say, did you know that while you as Lorato, as Monde, as Lesego, as Bitumelo, and you are trying to sell your good and service, there are so many other people that are trying to sell to the same person using the same kind of tools, right? But also people are preoccupied with many things that they are looking at. While PR is about telling a good story, of course, sometimes things go bad, right? And PR is also about helping to protect the image of the business and repair a damaged reputation. You'll remember the Adam Catzavelo story. His family were manufacturers of some sauce that was then sold to a number of restaurants and retailers. And of course, he went on to Greece. He then decided to make derogatory statements about Black people and shared the video on social media. While he thought that was only happening to him, or at least it was just a view expressed to him, there was a consumer activism in South Africa, which led to an uproar because of the outrage. And big brands such as the butcher shop, as an example, decided that because we are affiliated or related to this store that sells this specific sauce, we are therefore going to cut and remove the basting sauce from as part of our offering. And in that way, it was, imagine, so the butcher shop as an example, they were really looking at, we have patrons that buy from us. If our patrons find out that we continue to support a business which does not seemingly deal with racist attitudes, it then means that as a business, although this may be a third-party issue, we are supporting racism, right? And that's where reputation management comes in. It may not necessarily you may not necessarily be directly linked or related to whoever has done wrong, right? And what the biggest thing here is that in the 21st century, public relations helps you to, one, as you pay attention, as you create awareness, to recognize and acknowledge that consumer activism may actually harm that goal that you have of growing your business, because customer perceptions are very, very important. Another example is the recent one, which is clicks. And typically, you always have an agitator, right? Like the political party called the EFF. But that agitator is then able to create a ripple effect of some sort. And it's not only about the ripple effect, because even if you observe clicks, you know, the request was that they must take action, but they were not necessarily the ones who were at fault. So bring it closer to you and I who are small business owners, right? For instance, as part of my service offering, one of the things that I do is that I use freelancers for the work that I do, right? And sometimes I allow the freelancers to liaise with clients. Imagine if the liaison with client is such that, you know, it's found out that, and it's something that I don't know, that the person that liaises with client is known to have, you know, been involved in a domestic violence case, or, you know, some sexual violence case such as rape and all of that. It then means that that relationship will harm my relationship with client, which may lead to losing the client, which may then hamper my ability to grow, to grow my business. So that is why it is important that as you think about reputation, you think about it in such a way that it is not only about the things that you do, the things that you say, but it is the relationships that you have, the relationships that, you know, whether it's your third-party service providers, whether it's people that provide you the service. And most of us, because we don't always own the value chain as small business owners, we will always hit that, where if you are building, you know, you'll have to bring in electrician, you'll have to bring in a plumber, you know, the many other trades, so that they are able to support you. But unfortunately, in all of that, it may mean that they pose a risk. And reputation management is really then about, you need to be thinking about, do I value my relationship with client? If I do, you then need to put in a public relations or at least activity that says, how do I vet the relationships of the people that do work with me and service me? Then there's the element of first things first, right? So we've now looked at, you want to create awareness, and the question you're asking is, Lorato, I get all of that, but where do I begin, right? The first thing that the first thing we need to do is to, one, think about how we want to be positioned in the market, right? And I tell you now, many small business owners struggle with this, simplifying a message, or even saying that I have one key message. And then, of course, you then take that one key message and then you break it down to say, to my clients, what does this message say? To my prospective clients, what is it about? To my the people that help me refer, or at least a referral source, what will that message be? And like I made an example earlier about, you know, if you run a business where you depend on the community for goodwill, what is your message to the community? You know, if, for instance, your key message is that I am a brand that cares, right? And then there's a community member who sometimes come to you and they, you know, require assistance, or people are starting to see you grow as a business, but you are not investing in the community. Does that demonstrate that you care? Of course not, right? So the important thing is, as you craft the messages, you must then think about the activities that you run as a business. And this is where the point where I come to say, PR is not what you say, but what you do, right? So you can easily say that we are a business that cares. But if your actions are such that you don't care, where in the community sees you as a business that does not care, then it means that, in fact, you are not a business that cares. And you may then need to rethink about that message. We can, you know, offline talk about, you know, what are the practical ways, or even in the Q&A session, what are the practical ways of creating messages, and how do you create sub-messages, right? Then once you've created the message, it's about, what do I do with this message, right? Most important thing is, you are the one person, or you are a group of people in your business, and most of you are focusing on the core business, right? And the biggest enabler, as we've identified earlier, that is going to be traditional media, right? It's going to be social media. It's going to be online media, right? Then it means that you then need to say, we've created community messages. how do we communicate to the community? And it may be, if you're working in a mining town, as an example, and you are a service provider of PPE to a mining giant there, like an Anglo Gold, or whatever the case may be. As you operate in there, your core message, how you relate with the media there could be such that on a regular basis, you need to have a relationship that is warm with them, where you are able to, one, know the platform, know the kinds of stories that they have in there, and so that you are then able to provide them with the stories. Of course, you'd say to me, Lorato, but I can't be focusing on my core business and be doing that as well. I'll talk a little bit about how you can then try and mitigate this, right? But it is important that you build media relationships so that you are able to get your messages across, right? Once you've crafted the messages. And then the content pieces, the content development is important, right? Where now you have a message, now you have a relationship with a journalist at a radio station. You then need to be saying to them that, oh, by the way, I need to share a piece of a message with you. For instance, how we in our space, we pitch content or we pitch stories. We don't just send WhatsApp messages, right? There's a deliberate process, that there's a pitching brief that we put together where you identify the story angles that you then send to the producer, for instance, if it's a radio station, and then they are able to respond to you to say, no, this one we did last week, so we won't be able to do it again. So you see the important thing about, if you understand or if you know the media and how it works, and also if you pay attention, you'll be able to see that now that my pitch is a pitch that is old because they did a story last week, how do I refine it, still tell the same story, but use a different content piece, right? You may decide to write an opinion piece. You may decide to write a short blog. You may decide to write something, to the newspapers, or you may look at a different model to make sure that you are then able to tell your story and you don't feel defeated because the producer said to you that, no, sorry, we did a similar story last week. We can't repeat the story this week. The third element is then the content distribution, right? Where now it's important for you to then think about, once I have had my piece, am I just happy that it has been published in a newspaper, or do I then use my social media platforms as well to make sure that, one, the people who follow either the business or myself as the business owner get to know about the work that we do. Two, also it must live on your website, right? Importantly, those entrepreneurs who don't have websites, please make sure that you do, because that becomes a placeholder or a content holder for all this content that you are creating. And lastly, is really about publicity, where it's now about telling the story, right? And the advantage with it is that a lot of these media houses now in the digital era, they produce YouTube videos, right? Once you've done an interview, and they're able to share it with you. So you're able to reshare the content, but also it sits on their platforms, right? Imagine the credibility that comes with your story being, you've told your story on an interview on Newsroom, and they are hosting the platform. And that is the biggest thing about public relations, right? You get it right by making sure that you use third-party relationships to be able to tell your story, and they lend you their credibility, right? It's not the same as Lorato telling you that I have 16 years experience of public relations, versus when Monde tells you that, oh, by the way, this guy is kicked behind when it comes to PR. The likelihood is that you're going to believe Monde more than you're going to believe me. And I spoke a little bit about, you would be saying to me, Lorato, but the trouble is that I do not have the time, right? And the biggest question now is, should I or should I not, do it? Should I do it myself? Should I hire a professional? Should I hire an agency, right? And here, it is not a sales pitch at all. I'm going to use an example about these two powerful brands here, right? Power FM, a super mega powerful brand, but they only have about less than 100,000 listeners, right? And then you have Josie FM, which is, so the difference between the two is that Power FM covers the whole of Gauteng, right? Jozi FM covers majority of Soweto, right? Then Jozi FM has listeners of up to 300,000, right? So if you are a brand and you wanted to talk to people, your customers were based in and around Soweto, or even in the south of Joburg, in Naturena, which platform would you use to talk to your customers? Would you choose Power FM or would you choose Jozi FM? Many small business owners that I have interacted with, they choose Power FM. And they choose Power FM because Power FM is shinier. Power FM is known. Power FM looks bigger. Power FM, they have a better branding strategy and all of that. But here is then what you miss as a business owner. If your goal is to grow your business, will you grow your business if you use Jozi FM that has your target audience, that has a lot more of your target audience than when you go to a Power FM? And I'm not saying that it's an either or, right? I'm just, the demonstration here is really about, if you try and do it yourself, you are going to use limited knowledge, right? Because you are really guessing, right? But if you hire a professional or you hire an agency, we are likely to advise you why not Power FM, but Jozi FM. Because in our day-to-day job, we learn to understand who consumes content on these platforms, and you as a client, we are then able to connect you with your audience. And that is why here we really talk about the importance of relevance, right? It's not about just speaking in the marketplace. It's about being relevant to your target audience so that you are able to effectively connect your message with your target audiences, but also the message lands such that they follow that process of consideration, preference, and taking an action, right? And the saddest thing about public relations is that we are always here with our clients, particularly small business owners, right? That if you look at the budget line items, people always budget for transport, people budget for accounting packages, they budget for, if you are a salon or you're operating in a brick and mortar space, you budget for rent, you budget for water and lights and services and all other things. But there is no line item called budget, right? And even when it is there, you shop around, you look around, and then you think, I want a brief, or my brief to you is that I want the kind of publicity that is equivalent to an old mutual. But in reality, you can't get that. And that's what I'm hoping that you will get through this presentation, to say, as you set a budget aside, right? Should you decide after this session that, I understand the importance of public relations and I'm going to set a budget aside, also be mindful of the fact that your budget determines the extent of the activity. And the extent of the activity sometimes can even determine the outcome. So a small playbook for yourselves, and this is not really an exhaustive list. This is if you decide that you want to do it yourself. One, I encourage that, listen, be on conversations online, right? Engage on Twitter and publish content on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, because it has become a useful platform that also has been growing at a phenomenal rate in South Africa, where a lot of lead generation and client inquiries people are starting to get. So it's no longer just about professional platform where people are able to seek job opportunities. It has literally now become a platform where people are able to do business, or at least generate leads, because it's seen more as a business to business platform, right? Two, you guys are amazing, right? Remember, I mentioned that we are a special breed, right? Amazing in the sense that you are a specialist in your area, right? But why are you not highlighting that? Because that is where you are literally leaving PR not to do the job for you, right? And at times it's really just about saying, I need to share an idea. If you are in engineering as an example, right? You share your thoughts and ideas about, you know, the BRT in Ekurhuleni, right? From a design perspective, from a functionality perspective, from a methodology that they are using to build in phases and all of that. That demonstrates your ability and capability beyond the words that are on the website, beyond the words that you are saying that I offer services 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? It demonstrates your ability to, one, you know, comprehend things beyond just the projects that you're working on, but also apply your mind to other things that are happening in and around you. The third one is that focus on writing your story, right? And pitch your story to influencers. I deliberately use the word influencers and not media, because if you think about it, with digital, a lot of things have opened up, right? As an example, it's easy to pitch a travel story. If you're a travel operator, it's easy to pitch your story to an Azania, right, on 702, because she does lifestyle, or even a Mpole Solonyane on Power FM because she does lifestyle, right? But then you look at a Lelo Boyana, who is a blogger on travel. She's likely to get you a lot more in terms of connecting you to your audiences versus a Power FM, because Power FM is known as a generic platform. From the morning, they talk about politics, in the evening, business, and a whole lot of other things. Whereas a Lelo is focused, and people who go to Lelo ordinarily talk to her around issues on travel, right? So that's what I'm saying. You must then think about when you write your story and you pitch your content, in your influencer bouquet, include bloggers as well, include micro influencers. And I'm not talking about people who are going to charge you and lots of rent. There are people who literally have about 3,000 to 7,000 followers, but their followers are highly engaged because they see this person as an influencer, right? And that's the kind of person that you really want to get onto. Then the fourth one is rewarding customers, right? Who say good things about you. And there's an example, there's a case study that I've used there to demonstrate what I'm saying here. The fifth one is about build a PR campaign that is linked to your sales cycle, right? And this helps because remember, the biggest thing that you really want to achieve is to influence the purchasing decisions of your customers, right? So if you just run a campaign for the sake of it, you are likely to say, but PR is useless, right? But if you link and align your PR campaign to your sales cycle, you are then likely, because remember, what it does is that it links your process with the decisions that your customers, both current and potential, make. As an example, we know that November is the biggest month for a lot of boss berads, company strategies, and all of that, right? So it means that if you have not gotten into them before November, by the time they've decided the budget and you try and get to them in January and February, you've missed the boat, right? So you then need to be thinking about that alignment very, very importantly. The case studies that I want to share with you is, and most of you may know about this gentleman and his company, Tshepo Mekwa and Brima Logistics, right? He has been able to consistently use public relations to tell his story, right? So if you either Google Brima Logistics or you Google Tshepo Mekwa, you are likely to have a news item about some interview that they did, or a story that was written about them, or a profile that was done about them, right? But most importantly, and this is what then the other point that I made earlier around what PR is. PR is not a sprint, but a marathon, right? And it demonstrates exceptionally well here. So what Tshepo did and his team, they've been very, very vocal during the lockdown, right? Because remember now interprovincial travel is closed, a whole lot of, the economy is closed. He had to lay off about 40 staff members, right? He used that story to continue telling the business story of Brima Logistics, right? So you see, here is somebody who, when everything is good, he looks at stories, packages them, sells them to the media, right? When things are not going well, he does the same thing. So you see, same process. The only difference is that the message is packaged differently. And he was not even seeking sympathy. He was now even projecting himself as a business advocate to say, President Cyril Ramaphosa, open the industry. We have lost 40 businesses, 40 jobs. It means that 40 families are now no longer able to sustain themselves, right? So, and a number of media outlets covered that story, right? Now that things have opened a little bit, the picture on the right, he is now communicating the Brima Logistics growth story, right? He is not there yet. So, but what he's showing is that although he has smaller trucks, he wants to get to the point where he has this, the largest trucks. He wants to get into air logistics or air, using air for delivering cargo and all of that. He wants to get into the sea. So as a message, what Tshepo is communicating to us is that I have been able to conquer my industry and I take care of the welfare of my staff. I care about my employees. And that is why I will talk to the powers that be to make sure that they hear me. And when they do, I will absorb these staff members back again. But I will also continue to communicate with or at least on the growth strategy. Remember on the point 4 on the slide, I spoke about rewarding customers. They say nice things about him. I imagine, and Tshepo is not my client, by the way, I imagine that they were able to see a number of people that, have been saying nice things about them. They are currently running a Twitter competition where they are asking people to take a picture of a Brima truck and share the screen grab with them and write something, right? And that person stands a chance to win a few thousand of rands, right? If you consider that little bit that he rewards the customers with, but also using the element of crowdsourcing, people and people who may not necessarily even be customers. So this is me minding my own business in a taxi from Harangua to Pretoria, and I see a Brima Logistics lorry, and I know that there's this thing, this competition for me to stand a chance to win 5,000 rands. Am I not going to take part in that competition? I'm likely to do that, right? But also what that does, it is that, remember we spoke about trust, it then opens Tshepo's business to my small community, right? I have a few followers that may be following me, but that is the followers that Tshepo did not have before I engaged with this brand. So with PR, the engagement with the brand is not only transactional, right? It's important for us as entrepreneurs to recognize that some of these campaigns are able to help us to be able to appeal to people that don't even consume our products, but are able to help us sell a little bit more. You may know of this young lady, Mohau Seshwene, from Polokwane, has done amazing things around this Lazy Makoti brand, right? And what the biggest thing really about her story, or at least what she has done, is that, and again, this is a PR activity, right? She was doing the business, and then the PR plan or strategy was to say, write a book. She wrote a book. Now, Woolworths, she's part of the Woolworths, culinary packages and all of that. And you can imagine who are the people that are ordinarily associated with Woolworths. So, but by that kind of association, it has already catapulted her to a higher level from a positioning point of view. You may have seen those who commute on Gautrain, and if you have used the Gautrain in recent days, she's now on big adverts of Gautrain because there is some partnership that's going on there. The point really that I'm making is that a lot of the PR that went into Lazy Makoti, and with her, she's just the one person, right? Unlike most of us who intend to grow businesses that employ many people, like a Brima as an example, right? You're going to have many drivers, right? She is the one brand, but she's been able to grow the value of her brand such that other brands want to associate with her, want to partner with her, and want to help her grow her business. The last case study is Ayanda Tekiana. Ayanda Tekiana is a good friend. Oh, by the way, even Lazy Makoti, she's not my client, and Ayanda as well. I've used these case studies because these are people that I've been observing in how they easily do PR, right? And how they've literally grown and benefited over time. Ayanda runs a company called Solopili Kids. Solopili Kids, they sell toys, educational toys for children, but also they put together programs for children. For instance, they are now in partnership with a hospital there here in Tembisa, where they're running a hospital program for children where, you know, you can bring your child and then they learn a little bit about, you know, what being a doctor is, and it's a play school kind of a thing, right? But what Ayanda has done phenomenally so is that she has positioned herself in the market as the parent coach. So every other media house, when they are looking for somebody who is not a clinical psychologist or a child psychologist to come and talk about, you know, children behavior and a whole lot of other things, learning problems and all of that, they call Ayanda. In that way, Ayanda has, you know, asserted herself as an expert. And that's what I was saying about yourselves, to say, most of you are brilliant at what you do, right? So take that brilliance, channel it into, can I be this person who's then available to be an expert that the media calls on me? But remember, it goes to that building of the relationships. Unless you build a relationship, you will not be called. Unless you put together content, you will not be known. Unless you share the content, it will not be seen. So it's really a combination of things that you need to be able to do to get here. And lastly, as we end, good PR strategies prevent problems. We've spoken about a little bit on, because it's about reputation management, when you have a PR strategy, it will help you to think about, how do I deal with third-party service providers, right? You don't think about it after the fact when there's an Adam Katsavelos or when there's a clicks, right? You already think about it upfront. So I'm saying in what you do, planning is critical, and that strategy helps you to think about other things other than just the activities. Secondly, PR takes time, right? You don't put in amount of money today and hope that you'll see the results tomorrow. It's something that you build over time. You measure, you must be deliberate in measuring the return on investment, but as much as possible, rinse, wash, rinse, repeat, right? The third one is that it turns business stories into news. I've demonstrated with Tsepo Megwa and Brima Logistics, and you can think of many others, right? DJ's Boo with the latest going into stores with the new cool drink and all of that. They've turned those business stories into news. It boosts brand visibility, and it loves marketing. This is exceptionally critical, right? The PR has two brothers called or sisters called advertising and marketing. It does not mean that you should only focus on PR. Of course, the advantage of PR is that it is less expensive, but you must always consider doing coupling it with marketing as well. And many studies have proven that PR is seen by consumers. Remember, these are the people that you want to talk to, as effective more than advertising, because it's that party who are telling your story. It's that party who are giving you the platform to lend you their credibility so that you are able to tell your story. And most importantly, most of us as small business owners, we don't always have the money to spend on PR. So it's then able to help you to stretch the rent a little bit. And I hope that most of you who don't have a PR budget as your line item, you will now start putting it on, and then start saying, how do I, one, get to the customer, get to my customers, or even the people that may help me get to my customers. It turns your fans into evangelists. with entrepreneurs as well. You know, when journalists move and they have a story to tell, they always remember that, you know, there's a story that we really want to be able to tell. Can we reach out to him? Can he be our expert? Can he tell the story? And that's it for me now, Monde. I'm ready to take the questions. I hope that everyone was tuned in and they were not too bored.
Yeah, wow. Thanks a lot, Tate Lorato. That was a very informative session. We do have a couple of questions. The first one comes from Tamsanga, and it says, good morning, great story. Would you say public relations is just as important for small and upcoming businesses? So I think it's all around, you know, is PR per se only for you know, the more established businesses, or is it also important for startups? Over to you, sir.
It's important that you start with PR from the beginning, right? Because PR helps you to shape the story, right? Remember, like I said, that the first thing that you need to do is your message. And the message is really around the activities that you undertake as a business. So you don't wait for yourself to grow to 3 staff members and only start doing that. So if you're a consultant, as an example, right, your strategy should already be thinking about, if I relate with clients, how do I then how do I then make sure that my public relations, or at least the reputation of the business and the image that I want to project, is congruent with the activities of the business. So it's something that you start with from the beginning. Of course, if you have not started, it's now time for small business owners to think a little bit about.
No, thank you. And then Kagiso, my colleague out in Harambe, a community activist, is asking, how important is community media in growing your brand / your identity? And how best can they be empowered to support your growth agenda as a business? I don't know if you caught the question.
Yes, I did. In fact, I'm glad that they raised the question, because if you think about it, Kagiso, the example that I used with Power FM and Josie FM. Josie FM is considered a community radio station, right? And Josie FM grew organically, of course. So it is the biggest township in the country. So the likelihood is that their numbers are going to be greater, right? But the point really is that it is important for small business owners to consider community media, precisely for the fact that community media may be talking to their customers. And that's the important link that we always need to make, to say, where are my customers? If my customers are listening to Tembisa FM, it is important then for me to use Tembisa FM rather than using a bigger radio station, which will cost me more money. And that way, the offshoot of that is that the little money that I spend on a Tembisa FM then is likely to, help Tembisa to grow and be able to pay salaries or, whatever the case may be. But I can never overemphasize the role of community media, one, in helping you maintain the community relations, but two, helping you spread the message directly to the customers that you're looking at.
No, nice. We also have Siamtanda saying, I would like the speaker to not forget touching base on internal communication. So perhaps in Lorato, just talk a bit about internal communications, how we should be handling that and the importance or the significance of it.
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Santanda. So a lot of small business owners, we hardly ever think and consider internal communications, right? Immediately there are 2 or more people that have to communicate, whether via email or via any kinds of channel. It's important for and that's where PR then helps you to say, have we standardized how we communicate? As an example, whenever I write a professional email, I say, Dear Monde, Dear Lorato, right? And what I do is I then let my new staff members that are on board, I let my consultants that come on board and say, this is how decode communicates, right? I know maybe you're used to hi, monde, from a decode standard point of standard, this is how we communicate, right? That's more from a business communication point of view. But secondly, if you consider what the pandemic has done to us, a lot of us are now starting to work from home, particularly service-run businesses, right? It then means that we no longer have that, I can quickly run to you at your desk and say, hey, Shimran, that report, can you quickly, right? And when you then establish communication, internal communications workflow, you are then able to get staff members to know how we communicate internally, how we ensure that, reporting is done, and also, the ability for you as the business owner, you are able to touch base with your staff members. Because one of the things that we've taken for granted, particularly during this time, is that a lot of people are going through tough time, right? So as a business owner, you also have the responsibility to keep the morale up. And part of internal communications talks to you making, or at least establishing, regular communications with your staff members about operational stuff, but then also about their, their well-being, whether it's mental health, some of them may be going through substance abuse or whatever the case may be. You then need to be able to say, how is there a rhythm that we've established in terms of communicating with our staff members, irrespective of how small we are, or even irrespective of if you are the only staff member, but you then also have to communicate with consultants or freelancers.
No, just as a follow-up, what is the starting point, or how can one say from listening to you, they want to touch up on their communication broadly? Do you have any tips on how one can improve their communication?
So the first thing to start up with, Monday, is to say, establish, even if you don't have a strategy, right? Because I know that strategy is always a headache. Don't worry about a strategy. Just think about what is the message that your company is all about, right? And once you've established that, you are then able to say, okay, now that I know that I have employees, you need to then be thinking about, how do I project this message to my employees, right? And it may take some time for you to get it right, but it's important for you to always be thinking about, now that I know how I want to communicate with my staff members, am I doing it that way, right? You assess how you communicate with them, and then your clients or your many stakeholders. So that's the first part, right? And once you've done that, the quickest thing and easiest thing to do, jot your thoughts, write them down in a way that you can bounce them with your friend. And here now you don't have a PR agency or a PR professional who's doing work for you, right? But say you just write an idea or a thought about you want to sponsor an expertise, a thought on your expertise. 300 words. Don't try and be these people who write many words. Just about 300 to 350 words. Write that thing, put it up on your blog, right? You are then beginning a rhythm of producing content, right? Couple that with, if you are not investing in search engine optimization, use your websites on CMS search engine optimization to optimize those articles, so that when you place them on other platforms such as social media, you are then able to that they are optimized. There's an image there, when the article comes up and all of that. And then you can then do a Guerrilla Pr, right? You then tag the journalists that that are interested in your content, right? So if, for instance, you're in the science and technology and you know who writes on science and technology at this community, or even at Business Day, you tag that journalist when you write an article. They may ignore you for as many times as possible, but because one, you are consistent with creating content, two, you are now starting to tag the right kind of people that may pay attention to your content. They are then likely to give you attention when it matters. Just continue being persistent, because remember, it's a relationship building. the likelihood is that that person is going to drop you a DM and say, hey, Shimran, I like this story. Can you tell me more? Then you start exchanging phone numbers, and then you are on WhatsApp, and then you are on first name basis, and then you are able to tell the story. So that's how you really work to build that up, so that you are now able to see the name of your business or your name in lights.
No, definitely. I see. I would love to bring in Tumelo, because Tumelo posted something saying standard criteria in your value chain. So Tumelo, after Siamtanda, I'm going to cue you in to ask a question because I want you to elaborate a bit. But for now, Siamtanda, if you could please unmute yourself, because I see you've raised your hand. Please ask your question, Siamtanda. Siamtanda, are you there?
Hi.
Yes, hi.
I'm sorry, I could have pressed my phone by mistake, but my question was what I wrote on the Q&A box, and Mr. Lorato has answered that. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, Siamtanda. Now to Melo, I will be queuing you in. I hope you are ready to elaborate on what you mentioned as, you know, a important standard in the value chain. Tumelo, over to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. It's been very informative. So with our value chain, and Lorato had mentioned that it's very important as a business that every single company that you do sort of work with has a standard and a reputation within the industry, right? So let's say you are in the automotive sector and you are a startup trying to make sure that you're producing tires, for example, right? It's a very small part of the value chain, and a lot of the other players are very big in the industry, right? How are you then ensuring from that position that they're doing the kinds of things like sourcing, treating their staff with grace, when you don't have many options with people that share the same sort of values? Is it a matter that you soldier it out and maintain that sort of standard of your values, or is it a thing where there's a potential compromise for the progress of business?
Thank you, Tumelo, for the question. And so this is a very important question, to the point of, if you look at KPMG and where it is today, KPMG is where it is today because they lost their way in terms of, upholding the values of ethics, right? So if you decide as an entrepreneur or as a business owner to abandon your values, which, remember, it really talks to that message, right? It then means that you risk losing your business. Thankfully, KPMG, the chairman, because he has a relationship with the finance minister in Mboweni, he was able to call the minister, and the minister agreed that no, KPMG is too big to fall. Do you think that you have that kind of relationship with the finance minister or with the minister of trade and industry to help you save your business? Possibly not, right? So if that is the case, do not even risk it. In fact, I would even best my last trend and say, don't do it, because that minister that is your friend at trade and industry today may not be the minister tomorrow, right? So rather hedge on the values rather than hedging on what may be common practice in business. And the other example that I sometimes use is restaurateurs in the hospitality industry in particular. They have created this culture of employing non-South Africans, but to a certain extent, deliberately employing non-South Africans who are undocumented, because they can then leverage on that to exploit them by either not paying them proper salaries, or being able to fire them at the whim and all of that. So you see what they've done as business people is that they've decided to prioritize profit over values. And what that then does is that at some point when things catch up with them, who's going to be the biggest loser? They are going to be the biggest loser as as business owners. So my advice to you is that if you value your reputation, then you must value the values that you want to uphold, and you are able to build a sustainable and business that will even outlive you and possibly your grandchildren.
Thank you for that. Guys, we have just under 8 minutes to wrap up. If you have any further questions, you can still use the chat function, or you can just indicate by raising your hand, and we will get Lorato to answer that question. So Lorato, I have some questions that have been sent directly to me, asking, as someone who is interested or practicing PR, what professional or trade associations would you recommend for someone who's into PR?
Three main. The first one is the obvious one, which is the Public Relations Institute for Southern Africa, which is a professional body for public relations professionals, right? With all its issues, but I would urge you, if you are a student, as an example, register with it. Even if you are not, just register with it, because we are hoping as professionals who are, being activists around regulation of the industry to try and get to a point where, there is minimum thresholds and standards so that people can uphold. The second one is the press clubs. I'm a member of the National Press Club, which is hosted in Pretoria most of the time. And it benefits me in such that, remember, my currency and your currency as a PR professional is media contacts, right? And that there is really a meeting point of both journalists and public relations professionals, right? So that will help you to, one, on a regular basis, mingle with journalists that you would ordinarily not be able to mingle with. And you are then able to also, up your cred, because there's something good and better about people meeting you in person, unlike you just sending them press releases and they get them in your inboxes and all of that. So when you send them a press release, they remember you by face and they remember you by name. The third one, I'm on a platform which is for digital marketers. It's called Digital Fanta. And Digital Fanta is I can share the link with you. It's really just a group of digital marketers or people who are interested in digital marketing, who are then able to, get, for instance, there's been a special offer now from the AAA School of Advertising for writing for digital, right? There's something like 30% discount there. So those are some of the industry bodies that directly, as a PR professional, I would recommend you consider.
You got cut off there, Lorato. I think you had mentioned all three associations.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then how can one generate or boost their media coverage? So I think this person is more interested in getting, good media coverage. How would you recommend one to do it? Maybe both paying and not paying for it. How can we just get that media coverage?
So start small, right? Because if you try and stretch yourself, try and say, for instance, SABC has 18 radio stations. Imagine trying to know who are all the 18, the producers of all 18 radio stations. You're going to get exhausted too quickly, but also you are going to lose focus on your core business, right? So perhaps you could say, let me pick Metro FM, for instance, and let me pick 2000, and let me pick 5FM, right? And you say, these three stations, I need to know who are the producers of the drive time shows, right? And it's a matter of just cold calling. So you cold call, and they may share the email addresses with you, or they may not, right? And again, like I said, the advantage with the era in which we are is such that you can tag people. For instance, who presents the show is Ayabonga Kawe, for instance, on Metro FM Talk. You can just tag him. You may just find that he's a good human being, in the sense that he will share the details of the producer with you. And that way, it then opens a window or a channel for you to start pitching stories to Kuma, who's Ayabonga's producer, right? So that's the first thing, that with broadcasters in particular, you must establish who are the producers on the shows. But like I suggest, start small and start pitching stories, right? But also, as you pitch stories, you must also be courteous enough to find out from them, because it's possible that you don't listen to Metro FM Talk from Monday to Thursday, right? And you then miss the kind of content they cover. And it's possible that you want to pitch a story of technology on Tuesday and they only cover technology, they only do technology on Thursdays. Be courteous enough to ask Tuma, one, do you do technology stories? If he says yes, when do you do technology stories? And that way you are then a little bit more empowered to know, okay, if I'm looking to pitch a story, I'll then target Thursdays. But then you may also need to, you will need to ask, what is the best day for me to ask you or to pitch a story? Because they then plan in a week, right? So by this week, they already know what stories are coming next week, except those that are, breaking news and all of that. But a lot of their stories are pre-planned already. So when you know when they do the pre-planning, you are easily able to pitch the story at the right time, and it will not see you as an irritation. Because when it starts seeing you as an irritation, I promise you, all your mail is going to go to file 13 or spam mail, and you don't want that, because you are then going to say, I've been pitching and no one is responding to me. It is because you've not developed a culture of continuously asking the right questions such that you are able to get in the right way. The other guerrilla way, right? As you continue producing content, as you write, right? People are now going to start seeing you as an expert. And I want to use Kaya Kumalo, right? The guy who's at Metro FM, at Kaya FM, who's always wearing the Zulu headband. I think that's the surname. But Kaya started as somebody who was just writing on Facebook. Kaya is a chartered accountant, right? And Kaya was writing a lot about issues in the industry, in the accounting industry. Today he has his own show at Kaya FM. We don't have aspirations to be all presenters at a radio station, right? But the point that I'm making is that as you produce content, there is somebody who's going to recognize your content such that you are an expert in your field, and they will then elevate you to then become an Ayanda Tekiana that I've used as an example here to say, that's what she was doing. She was always writing stuff. She was always contributing on parent coaching, on children education and all of that. And somebody at a media house recognized her as a valuable contributor. And now she contributes on a regular basis. So that may be the best way of really trying to up the ante on media coverage.
Can you hear me now, Lorato?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Last one, what is your business philosophy, inspiration, and motivation that it fuels you to continue running Decode?
So in fact, one of the people that inspire me is Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk has this master plan, and in the master plan, he says that he wanted to produce this very expensive vehicle so that he can then sell it, and from there he can then start mass producing, and then from mass producing he's then going to produce a very cheap car that will be mass produced, and he can get into other industries like he is now into energy. There are things that I want to be able to do in life that are not necessarily about public relations, but I've realized that I'm going to continue leveraging my skill so that I generate enough money that will enable me to be able to do those. And one of those things is, shaping the thinking of young men in particular, right? And most importantly, continue to fight the gender equality battle, because in an unequal society, we will never have justice. So I want to be able to continue that. But of course, those are the two battles that require money. And as things stand now, I'm not able to do them optimally. So literally, they are a side hustle as we speak. And I want to change the role where, you know, PR is a side hustle. So my inspiration really is to make enough money such that I'm able to contribute meaningfully to society, and PR enables me to do that.
No, thank you. And then someone is fighting me, a very important partner of ours is asking, please ask Lorato to explain #GovComsSocial. Tell us about that platform.
Thank you so much. So out of irritation with how government communicators have not really or have fallen behind the curve with social media, I decided to establish GovComsSocial as a knowledge sharing platform for government communicators, because I think, you know, government communicators are sitting at the sweet spot. But unfortunately, there are many factors that play against them that, you know, they are then not able to do things well, right? A simple example is, I tweeted Home Affairs yesterday. To this day, I've not even received a response, right? And it shows you that, or at least it's one of the millions of examples of how while we're talking 4IR, while we're talking digital transformation, while we're talking moving towards digital communications, government is moving slower, right? And my view is that if we were to prioritize communications as government, the likelihood is that we are going to inspire a lot more confidence. We are going to engender trust, because many broken relationships are broken as a result of lack of communication, or communications that is not clear, right? So if government were to get that right, all of us are moving to social media, Monde and team. And if our government is lagging behind there, we know that we are being let down. And I thought that would be a little bit of my contribution, to help and support them. So we run boot camps. These boot camps are on writing for social media, because that's the other thing that they struggle with, right? They literally just copy that from a press release and dump it onto the social channels, and you realize that is why people don't engage with your content, because you are not writing for social media, right? You may have seen the presidency got the Jerusalem challenge a little bit better. They were claiming victory because if you saw yesterday, on Thursday, they were sharing all the videos and saying people are responding to the president. In fact, some of them may not have been, but I'm just saying the presidency, from a digital comms point of view, they got it, right? And they were able to leverage that moment to rally South Africans to participate in a very important activity, generate a lot of patriotism. And I've partnered with Brand SA, where, from time to time, we are able to get to convene government communicators and run the workshops and run the boot camps as well.
No, thank you, sir. And then your parting shots. I know Tina had asked that we share the digital organization that you had suggested that we should, one can join, maybe just touch on that a bit. And then as you are wrapping up, just give us your advice, especially now with the new normal of COVID-19, what, from your heart, what would you say to entrepreneurs, and how can one get in touch with you? Because Maki wants to talk business with you and we want that connection. So over to you, sir, your closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Monde. And thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. So that platform that I was referring to is Digital Fanta. I will send you the link, Monde. So it's a Google form that people can complete, and then they are able to, because then there's a few questions you respond to, and they are able to admit you into the community, and it's a WhatsApp community essentially. My parting shot is that one of the things that we need to do, Monde, is that we always hear of this buzz phrase, thought leader, right? And I know that people want to believe that they are thought leaders. So if you write 2 or 3 content pieces, it does not make you a thought leader, right? Thought leaders are people who are able to influence conversations. And I believe that small business owners, because of their expertise and experience, we are literally sitting in the sweet spot of influencing conversations, right? And in my view, many of us are really sitting on this, PR activity that if we did it well, and like I say, don't try and be a writer for City Press, right? Just go onto your LinkedIn, start jotting down your thoughts. Just take care of the basics. Your grammar must be correct. Your tense must be correct. Don't use bombastic words, but, short and to the point, right? That way, you are going to start building yourself as an influencer in your space. But most importantly, you're going to find that you're going to influence the most important conversations. I know that many people always say, yeah, but you are a thought leader, and then what, right? I always say, look at Tumisole as an example, right? Here's somebody who's a corporate lawyer. He starts a movement called Country Duty. But he has then become this influencer that when it comes to community activism and social media, he has been able to intersect the two, and he uses his lawyering to always intervene on behalf of people as well, right? So I'm saying our expertise must be used for social good as well, right? But it's important for us to get ourselves out there, and I'm hoping that from today's session, a lot of us will now start growing a little bit more confidence to start jotting down our thoughts. And it's really about confidence building. The more you write, the more you become bolder, the more you are then even able to say, listen, there's a thought that I've been wanting to put out, but I was not sure how it will be received by the community. You write it, you put it out there, and you'll be surprised how people will be saying, damn, Monde, we've been waiting for somebody to say this, and thank you for saying it. And that engagement may just be the beginning of things that change either in the industry or even in the greater scheme of things. For instance, the next thing that I'm going to take on are the regulators, because I really feel that the advertising regulatory body, is sleeping on the wheel, because they just issued a very test statement on the clicks matter. They said, yeah, no, clicks has apologized. And I said, listen, Bell Pottinger closed down in the UK because the regulator did their work, right? In South Africa, we cannot afford that in instances of race relations, a regulator can sit on or at least sleep on the wheel. So things like those, and this, call it being emboldened, comes from the ideas that are shared publicly and how they've been received and all of that. So I'm really hoping that a lot of you as colleagues are going to start contributing. And don't think that because you are in construction, you don't have to say anything. Listen, everyone has an idea to share. Everyone has an insight to share. So please help all of us. And by the way, some of us are useless when it comes to construction, right? So you are actually then helping us, because then we are going to be able to, one, see you not only as somebody who's about bricks and mortar, but somebody who, who's gray matter, also does something for us as well, get us to think, get us to talk, and even get us to want to change things. Thank you so much.
How can people get hold of you, sir?
Oh, I am on Twitter and Facebook and on social and LinkedIn at Lorato Tshenkeng, and I know that my surname is the trickiest of them all. I was saying to Monde earlier, you pronounce it Tshenkeng as if it's Chinese, right? But it's Lorato Tshenkeng. And then with Decode, we are on both Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. Decode_comms. Our website, decode.co.za, and our landline is 011-037-6939. cell number. I don't know, you know, we're not too finicky about cell numbers because we are always on WhatsApp, 071-737-6370.
Thanks a lot, Lorato. We will certainly also share that when we send out our newsletter. Thanks a lot, myself, for the time. We have had a discussion to say perhaps we need a follow-up. We will engage on that and we will communicate with everyone. Just for the formalities, I will just play the outro, and then after the outro, we will open up for people to just engage after we've closed off the session. One important thing that Startup Grind is doing next month, you know, in light of, you know, Black Lives Matter. So Startup Grind globally, in October, we will be celebrating Black leaders. And we have Lorato today. We are not just celebrating Black leaders on a particular month, but globally as an organization, we've said, let us just put it in the face of those that are not deeming Black lives as what matters, but for us, all entrepreneurs of all races. But next month, we are hosting two brilliant Black entrepreneurs who will be sharing their journey, both in corporate as well as in the entrepreneurial space. We do know in South Africa, if you want to grow in the financial sector or in the tech space, even construction for that matter, there is a lot of Black professionals who are qualified, but they're not given opportunities. Please do check out when we publish that event around Black lives, but we are theming it a Black Leaders Month, and it is gonna be powered by startups. Google for Startups. For now, let's just watch this quick promo video, and I'll be back to open up the session so that we can do the connecting part.
South Africans love EFTs. They help us pay our rent, doctor's appointments, school fees, and that friend who bought us lunch the time we forgot our wallet. Did you know that around 1 in 3 people prefer EFTs to other online payment methods? So if you're running an online store, you really don't want to miss out on those sales. What's more, online shoppers expect instant service. That's why you need Instant EFT by PayFast. Instant EFT easily integrates into your website and offers super secure payments through South Africa's favorite banks. Payments immediately reflect in your PayFast account, which means there's no hold-up waiting for a proof of payment. PayFast even offers technical support to you and your customers. So don't delay. Reach more customers and enjoy PayFast's Instant EFT today.
There's a reason why for the last 13 years, startups overwhelmingly prefer to build on top of AWS. We have the largest number of services, making it easy for you to take on some of the biggest challenges with the smallest teams. We also have partnerships with the top VCs, accelerators, and incubators around the world, making it easier to secure your next round of funding.
I'm a solution architect with the AWS Head Start program. What we do is we work with startups in the education sector, and we help them build their services on AWS.
So We Power Tech is AWS's diversity and inclusion outreach program. The program is really twofold. One is to increase the number of underrepresented technologists within the industry, and the second is to provide a platform for them to be seen and heard.
If you're wondering how the AWS evangelism team might be able to help your startup, there are many ways. We're technically credible across our entire catalog of products, so we can help you figure out which services might be able to meaningfully impact your business. We also want to help tell your story. So if you're building something cool, we want to know about it and help spread that message to the world. So you might end up on stage at an event like AWS Summit. If you're a startup, you should also definitely check out the AWS Lofts. These are event spaces that are free to anyone with an AWS account. And you can treat them like co-working spaces, but the awesome thing about them is that we also have people like technical evangelists like myself, solutions architects that come and give hands-on technical workshops and sessions to help you learn how to more effectively utilize the AWS products and platforms that you're already building on top of.
We are a dedicated team of people that love startups.